World War I shattered empires, reshaped borders, and left Europe in turmoil. For Russia, the aftermath was especially transformative. The collapse of the Romanov dynasty and the chaos of revolution led to the rise of Vladimir Lenin, a figure who not only reshaped Russia, but also changed the course of global history. Lenin was more than a revolutionary, he was a strategist, a leader, and an ideologue who seized a moment of crisis to mold a new state. In this video, we'll explore how Lenin's policies and decisions following World War I forged the Soviet Union, challenged global powers, and left a legacy that endures to this day. From the Bolshevik Revolution to the new economic policy, we'll uncover how Lenin's vision changed the course of Russia forever. In October 1917, as World War I ravaged Europe, Lenin and the Bolsheviks orchestrated a coup d'etat against Russia's provisional government. This wasn't just a spontaneous act, it was the culmination of years of planning and Lenin's insistence on a radical Marxist vision. The Bolshevik Revolution was unique because it sought to replace not just a monarchy but an entire system of governance. Lenin's famous slogan, "Peace, land, and bread," resonated with war-weary soldiers, starving peasants, and exploited workers. By promising an end to the war and sweeping social reforms, Lenin positioned the Bolsheviks as the vanguard of the proletariat, ready to lead a classless society. Yet, the revolution also plunged Russia into civil war, setting the stage for further upheaval. One of Lenin's first and most controversial acts as leader was pulling Russia out of World War I. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, signed in March 1918, ceded vast territories to Germany, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltics. For many Russians, this was a bitter pill to swallow, but Lenin believed it was a necessary sacrifice to secure the Bolshevik regime. By ending Russia's involvement in the war, Lenin freed resources to focus on internal challenges, particularly the civil war against anti-Bolshevik forces. Critics saw Brest-Litovsk as a betrayal, but for Lenin, it was a strategic move that allowed the nascent Soviet state to survive. This decision highlighted Lenin's pragmatism. He was willing to compromise on territorial losses to consolidate power at home. The end of World War I didn't bring peace to Russia. Instead, the country descended into a brutal civil war between the Red Army, loyal to Lenin, and the Bolsheviks, and the White Army, a loose coalition of monarchists, liberals, and foreign interventionists. To secure victory, Lenin implemented the Red Terror, a campaign of political repression and violence. The Cheka, the Bolshevik secret police, executed thousands of suspected enemies. This period of state-sponsored violence was justified by Lenin as necessary to protect the revolution. By 1922, the Red Army emerged victorious, but at a tremendous cost. Millions had died, and Russia was devastated. The Civil War solidified Lenin's control, but also set a precedent for the authoritarian nature of the Soviet state. With the Civil War won, Lenin turned his attention to restructuring the state. In 1922, he oversaw the formation of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, a federation of socialist republics under centralized Bolshevik control. The USSR was designed to embody Lenin's vision of a state that would serve as a model for global revolution. However, the structure of the Soviet Union also reflected Lenin's pragmatism. While it promised autonomy to its constituent republics, real power was concentrated in Moscow. This tension between central control and local governance would define Soviet politics for decades. Lenin's creation of the USSR marked the beginning of a new superpower, one that would rival the West in the 20th century. During the Civil War, Lenin implemented war communism, a series of policies aimed at centralizing the economy to support the Red Army. Private trade was banned, industries were nationalized, and grain was requisitioned from peasants to feed urban workers and soldiers. While war communism helped the Bolsheviks win the Civil War, it devastated the economy. Agricultural production plummeted, leading to widespread famine that claimed millions of lives. Industrial output also collapsed, and dissatisfaction among workers and peasants grew. Lenin's experiment in rapid socialist transformation showed the dangers of prioritizing ideology over practical governance. By 1921, Lenin recognized that war communism had pushed the country to the brink of collapse. In response, he introduced the new economic policy NEP, a temporary retreat from pure socialism. The NEP allowed limited private enterprise, market mechanisms, and small-scale capitalism to revive the economy. This pragmatic shift stabilized the country and improved living conditions. While some Bolsheviks criticized the NEP as a betrayal of Marxist principles, Lenin defended it as a necessary step to rebuild the nation. The NEP demonstrated Lenin's flexibility as a leader, willing to adapt his policies to address immediate challenges. By the early 1920s, Lenin's health began to deteriorate. After suffering a series of strokes, he was increasingly sidelined from active leadership. During this period, a power struggle emerged within the Communist Party, with Joseph Stalin, Leon Trotsky, and others vying for control. In his final writings, Lenin expressed concerns about Stalin's growing influence, describing him as too rude, and suggesting he be removed from his position as General Secretary. However, Lenin's warnings went unheeded. His death in 1924 marked the end of an era and set the stage for Stalin's rise, which would take the Soviet Union in a far more authoritarian direction. Lenin's impact on Russia and the world is immeasurable. He transformed the Russian Empire into the Soviet Union, creating a one-party state that would dominate the 20th century. His leadership, during a time of chaos and crisis, laid the foundations for a superpower, but his methods, repression, centralization, and the use of terror also established a model of governance that many would later criticize. Lenin remains a polarizing figure. To some, he's a visionary who fought for equality and justice. To others, he's a dictator who sacrificed millions for his ideological goals. What is certain is that Lenin changed the course of history, not just for Russia but for the world. The Soviet Union he built would become a global force, shaping the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Vladimir Lenin's rise to power after World War I was not just a turning point for Russia. It was a moment that redefined modern history. His vision of a socialist state challenged the global order, inspiring revolutions and shaping ideologies worldwide. But Lenin's legacy is complex, marked by both remarkable achievements and profound tragedies. What do you think about Lenin's role in history? Was he a visionary or a tyrant? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more deep dives into history's most transformative figures and events.